Good morning, students. So we are done with the first module, Introduction to Data Compression. So that module mainly focused on text compression techniques. So encoded using either which techniques, LZW, LZ77, LZ78, which were dictionary techniques, or we used arithmetic coding technique or the Huffman coding technique. So again, they were which techniques? They were text compression techniques. So we didn't have any chance of using approximations there. So next module is image and video compression. So what we do here is we compress images and videos. So why we need to compress them, that we'll see in the next slide. So this is the resolutions we are using in today's world. So this is HD resolution is 1280 by 720 pixels. So if you use YouTube, you see the best first HD which we get is 720p, then we get 108p. This is not used much. Then we use 4K. So recently YouTube has also started compatibility with 4K videos, and then finally we also have 8K if you have not heard of it. But usually we go maximum till 4K because the quality does not increase that much using 8K. So what is the thing in this? Why we study compression, that we can understand using the next slide. Now, what is the thing is all the modern computers employ graphics extensively. So graphics are nothing but what images only. So if you are opening up Windows 10 or something, it is nothing but lots of graphics. You see many colors there. Again, I am stressing on the point, we see many colors. So if you open MATLAB or any other software which you are using, Microsoft Office, PowerPoint, what they all use is graphics. And in terms what we say graphical user interface. So it is all about graphics. And the second thing is images are important. But what is the problem? They tend to be big. So you saw in the previous slide, if I consider this as HD image, it is 1280 by 720 pixels. So if you are not getting an idea how big it is, so let's see that with the help of an example. Now let's take an example of a normal 512 by 512 image, pixel image. It consists of 7,86,432 bytes. Yes, you heard it right, it is 7,86,432 bytes. It is not even HD. When we are talking about HD, it is more than double of this. It is 1280 by 720. And we don't prefer this. When we are using YouTube, we usually prefer a full HD, that is 1080 by 1920. This is the actual 1080 pixel which you see in YouTube. And this is the 4K one. So what is the size of this? Let's try to calculate. So we are talking about images, right? Now if text was 1D data, but image is 2D data, because you can see along the x-axis as well as the y-axis. So obviously image is 2D, right? And image is represented with what colors? It can be a black and white or a color image. Usually we prefer a color image. So the colors are represented by what? Red, green and blue. If you have heard of it, is what? RGB colors. So each color represents 8 bits. So for each pixel what we have? 24 bits. RGB representing 8, 8, 8. So 24 bits for each pixel. Right? So let's see what happens with that. Let me clear this. So I have 512 into 512. Right? So this comes out to be 2,62,144 pixels. And each pixel is represented by what? 24 bits of information representing colors, right? So this represents 62,91,456, right? So these are bits. We are usually concerned in bytes or kilobytes. So let's divide by 8 because one byte is 8 bits. So what we get? 7,86,432. So same value which is mentioned here. 7,86,432 bytes of space. Now again, this is a normal 512 by 512 image, right? Let's take a HD image, 1280 by 720. It is 1280 by 720. So again, let's clear this. 1280 by 720 into, this is pixels, so into 24 pixels, 24 bits. So it is 22 million bits, right? Divided by 8. So this is how much? 27,64,800 bytes. Correct. if you want it in kilobytes, we'll divide it by 1024. So this is 2700 kilobytes. So 2700 KB, right? So let's take, this is a simple HD image. Let's take full HD because all we are usually concerned with full HD. So let's take this 1920 by 1080. So again, let's clear this 1920 by 1080. This is what pixels. So these pixels itself are in millions. Into each color represents 8 bits. So 3 colors RGB, 24 bits. So how much? 497 lakh, around 500 lakh bits divided by 8. So 62 lakh bytes divided by 1024. So how much? 6000, around 600 kilobytes, right? So if you again divide by 1024, it is how much? 6 MB. What a HD image will be around 6 MB, right? But this we are talking about images, right? Let's take a 4K image. If you have seen your mobile cameras, they are 25 megapixel, at least nowadays at least 15 to 20 megapixels. So they will be around in at least bare minimum this range, 8K range, 7680 by 4320. So let's see that. 7680 by 4320. I might have made small mistakes in the numbers, but it is fine, right? So again into 24. So this is in bits. So divided by 8 bytes. So you can see the huge amount now. Divided by 1024. This is what? MB, right? So this is 97 MB. So if you have a high-end camera, your one image will be of size 100 MB. And you know how much images we send in today's world. So it is a huge amount. So we somehow need to have compression algorithms to compress these images, right? So that is where image compression and video compression comes into picture. Now how does video compression comes into picture? Video is nothing but a amalgamation of images. So if you are achieving image compression, you can achieve video compression also. So apart from this, video processing applications also require large storage and channel speeds for transmission. Why we are talking about transmission is because we are not going to just have the image, we are going to send it somewhere. The best example is we use WhatsApp to send images and videos also. So if it has to be transmitted, if it is in compressed form, it will be transmitted faster. So that is why we require compression. So hence compression is inevitable for storing as well as transmitting data. So as explained, why for transmitting, why for storing, because it will save our hard disk space, right? So even if we are having nowadays 1 terabyte data, sometimes if we are using the laptop for more than 1 year or so, we find that we are lacking space. So that is where compression again comes into picture. So let's proceed further. So the compression is usually achieved with the help of transforms. So the first thing, you have studied many transforms in mathematics, Z transform, Fourier transform and other transforms. So why transforms we use? So simple, this is the function f of x representing a sinusoidal signal. As you can see, it is varying sinusoidally with time, right? So if I take a Fourier transform of this, instead of x, strictly speaking, this should be t and this should be f of t, because this is a time domain signal. As time progresses, we are getting a sinusoidal nature waveform. So if I take a Fourier transform of this, I go from the time domain to the frequency domain. So frequency is represented by omega. So S is j omega here. So frequency is represented by omega. What you see, this was a complicated signal. It was having some value at each and every point of time. But the moment I go to frequency domain, it is having only values at minus w and plus w, right? So this was a period of 2 pi by w. So at that period I am having the values. So if you think, if I want to work on this signal, or if I want to analyze this signal, which signal will be simpler? Obviously the right hand side, this signal will be simpler, right? So that is why we use transforms. This is the simple reason we use transforms. But we understand, or we are comfortable with things in the time domain. So what we do, we have inverse transforms also. So we use inverse Fourier transform and go back to the time domain signal, right? So this is the way we use transforms. So in this lecture, what we are going to study is discrete cosine transform, abbreviated as DCT. So we have already answered this question, why transforms. So Why are they used? Because they are usually popular due to their simplicity. We don't have to use them manually, we just use the equations, fit them in a computer and algorithm, and then we get the output. So discrete cosine transform DCT, which is the topic of this lecture, is quite popular and is used in JPEG and MPEG. So what is JPEG? Joint Photographic Experts Group, Motion Photographic Expert Groups. As all of you might know, JPEG is the standard for images which we use in our mobiles, etc., and MPEG is the standard for MP4 images which you videos which you use. It is a video compression algorithm. JPEG is a image compression algorithm. So what is DCT? Now, as I said, image is a 2D thing, right? So DCT also works on 2D. That is why we have two variables here, I and j, two indexes, gi, j. So it is equal to, given as square root of 2 by m, square root of 2 by n, ci, cj, summation of x equal to 0 to n minus 1, y equal to 0 to m minus 1, pxy, cos of 2y plus 1 j pi upon 2m into cos of 2x plus m I pi upon 2n. Remember, this I and j are not our complex numbers in mathematics or electronics domain, they are these indexes I and j, and this is valid for I lies between 0 to n minus 1 and j lies between 0 to m minus 1. Now what is this n and m? Now our DC image might be 8 by 8 of size 8 by 8 pixels, or as we saw, it might, if it is HD, it will be of the order of 1080 by 1920. So that represents the m and n. And similarly, we have inverse discrete cosine transform in 2 dimensions given by this. So this is the formula for DCT and IDCT. So why is it important? How it achieves compression, that we'll see. So it achieves compression mainly by concentration of energy in one part of the image, and most of the other coefficients which we achieve using DCT are zeros. So how will that, you may not understand here, we'll see that in further slides. So the coefficients which are called as DCT coefficients obtained with these formulas, the Gij values which you get will be, now you have a 8 by 8 image, right? So you'll have 64 values. So you'll give that 64 inputs to this. So at the output Gij will have 64 values. So those will be represented in a 8 by 8 matrix. So that 8 by 8 matrix which you get as Gij is called as DCT coefficient matrix. So these are the coefficients which are talked about here. So if you observe, most of the coefficients are 0 using, which you get using DCT. So why? So if you have 0 means you don't have to transmit anything, right? So yeah, and concentration of energy is only in one of the coefficients or some of the coefficient. So what is happening? Since you don't have to transmit these zeros, you have to transmit only these concentrated numbers, you are achieving compression. So that is the heart of DCT. And the most important part is early coefficient, that is the coefficients to the left side of the matrix contain the important image information. That is, and the later coefficients contain the less important image information. And these are correspondingly called as low frequency and high frequency. So what we can do, hence compression can be achieved by quantizing the coefficients. Means what will we do? We'll have a set of numbers. We'll divide the low frequency numbers by low values, or we'll quantize them finely, and later coefficients will divide by high values, so that go to 0 because they are not important. So DCT, again, it only aids in compression, but what is achieving in compression is this quantization. So that is very important. DCT itself cannot give compression. Quantization is what it gives compression. So that is why I have just mentioned DCT here. Now we are talking about compression, so we go to DCTQ, that is discrete cosine transform quantization. So early coefficients will quantize them how? Finely, that is will divide by a small number, and later by coarsely, that is will divide by the, that is the early DCT coefficient can be divided by a small number and later by bigger numbers. That's what I am talking about. So quantization, what is quantization? Quantization can be thought of as an approximation, because we are dividing depending on the numbers we are achieving. So early coefficients are again can be quantized finely. This is just repeated. So let's take an example. So these are the DCTQ examples for correlated data. Now if you see any image, usually what happens is it is changing very slowly if you go from x to y axis. So what we do is, it is called as a correlated data image. So DCTQ is applicable only for correlated data. You cannot use it for random data or uncorrelated data. So how that works, we'll see with the help of an example. This is 8 by 8 matrix again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, similarly you have 8 here, you see the data is correlated. It is either decreasing or increasing by 2 here, and same way you are having all the diagonals as same. So there is some relation between the data here. So if I using this DCT formula, I get the DCT coefficients. So these are the DCT coefficients which I get. Then I have a quantization table. Now quantization table is fixed. I have not shown here, but you can find in your reference book which I have uploaded in classroom. So you divide them by this. So what you do? As I said, most of the energy is concentrated. Concentration of energy is present in DCT. So you see this is a very high number. But as you go towards the right and bottom, you see they are very small numbers. So what we do? So what we do is, again this is a high number, this is a very small number. So most of the data or the image data is concentrated in this number. This is called as the DC value. So then, as I have said, we have quantization table. So I quantize it with the help of the quantization table. I obtain this value. So what you see, the 81 number is exactly the same, and other values are divided by high numbers, so they approximately go to 0, right? So if you see the diagonal term here, it is 8. It is a high value, so it is high only here. Rest all small numbers are mostly 0 or 1s. So you don't have to transmit this, right? Or you have to transmit them with a less number of bits. So then when you reconstruct it, you get this data. So you observe, if you observe this, both the data are approximately same. Again, they will not be exactly same because we are using lossy compression algorithm. So DCT is a type of lossy compression algorithm. The algorithms which we saw, or the coding techniques which we saw last time, were all lossless in the first module. This is, we have started with second module. So this is the example of original image. Again you see it is changing very slowly. So this is a correlated image. So if you compress this, this is the compressed using software. So you see approximately both are same. You cannot see much difference there. So this is uncorrelated or random data now. You see there is no correlation between this data. It is randomly increasing. It is increasing by 2 year, by 3 year. Then it is 8 year, but it is changing here. So this is uncorrelated data. So if you take the DCT coefficients, you get this value, and if you quantize it, you come here. So what is happening? You are getting most of the things were 0 in the previous example. They are not 0 here. For example, you are having a high value of 20 year, a high value of 10 year. So if you are reconstructing using IDCT, what you get? Instead of 8, you are getting 7.59. Instead of 11, you are getting 12.09. Right? Instead of 12 year, you are getting 10.66. So there is huge difference, right? So this is not a good thing for, that is DCT is not good for random data. So you see this is the original image. So you see there is a drastic difference here. Black is changing to white. You can think in terms of 1 changing directly to 0 in digital logic. So that is why you are not getting a clear image. Compressed image is not good. Okay. So this is the thing about DCT. Okay.